we've seen over this college football weekend and do a little, we're going to play a game. It's called Overrated, Underrated. We're going to go through the first month of college football. It's crazy that we've already seen a whole month of it. And talk about some teams and whether or not they're overrated and underrated. Lyles, are going to start off with Missouri, who's currently 4-0.
They are currently 4-0, and they are currently playing like they're overrated. Because this offense, we knew coming into this year was going to be high-flying. They've got one of the best receiving corps in the country, obviously led by Luther Burden, who is a bad man, that boy bad, if you will. Theo Weiss also in that room, and Marquise Johnson, a really good speed threat for them. The big plays just haven't been there. I think the key for them today is going to be getting that run game going. Nate Noel, transfer out of App State. He's been very good for them, along with Marcus Carroll, who left my Georgia State Panthers, unfortunately. I just think that they need to be able to piece it together. Brady Cook's been good, not great. You're looking for this team to take that next step because their defense has played better than I think most people expected because they did have a lot of departures on that side of the football. They just got to be a little bit more consistent. I don't think that they're only 6 points better than Boston College, and they're certainly better than 3 points against Vanderbilt. They just got to start playing like it.
Okay, so...
and if they don't today, they're in trouble.
Let's move on to the number 10 Michigan Wolverines, the defending champs. They're 4-1 on the season. HD, are they overrated or underrated?
I'm going overrated, and it's simply because of the quarterback position. Alex Orji, I know they made a quarterback change, but when you can't pass for over 100 yards in a college football game, that's troubling to me. I don't know, outside of Colston Loveland, their tight end, I don't know who is going to take over the reins at the wide receiver position. I don't know who's the top dog.
Yep.
Right? So when it comes to the pass game, when you can't get that run game going against whatever prolific opponent that you're playing against, then you're one-dimensional, and we've seen that versus the University of Texas when they came up to Ann Arbor, and they beat them pretty badly.
I think it's safe to say it's a rebuilding year for Michigan. Let's go to number 11, USC. They're 3-1 on the season. Are they overrated or underrated?
I'm going underrated in the sense that they should be undefeated, okay? I think that this defense is much improved. We've talked about this staff with Dan Lynn coming in, revamping them. Obviously, Eric Henderson, their coach on the defensive line, and Doug Belk with those DBs. When they came out of that opening game against LSU and those boys were tackling, I knew this team was different. They've lived up to the hype on offense, honestly. I mean, short of having, I would say, they were trailing Wisconsin basically for 40 minutes last week. Should not have happened. They kept shooting themselves in the foot. They played a bad half against Michigan. That cost them there. I think that this is a team, 8th in offensive S&P plus per Bill Connolly. Great formula, by the way, if you haven't looked that up. This team, I think, is going to be there at the end of the season. They got a very favorable schedule. They probably, I personally don't count the Notre Dame game. It's a very tough game for them. So I think that they're going to be there at the end, and I think that they're going to continue to improve as the year goes along.
What do you mean be there at the end?
In the 12-team playoff.
Okay.
I think they'll be there.
They'll be in the CFP.
Nice follow-up.
Thank you. HD, Clemson, my other team. They're 3-1 on the season. How do you feel about them?
Well, number one, it's upsetting that you have multiple teams. That's usually not how it works. But since you mentioned Clemson, I'm going to go underrated. And I'm going to tell everyone in the country, watch out for the Clemson Tigers. Since losing that game one, that opener versus the University of Georgia, their quarterback, Cade Klubnik, 851 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 rushing touchdowns. He's been on a heater. That offense is gelling a lot more. And freshman wide receiver, Bryant Westco, he's making some noise, y'all. Watch out for the Clemson Tigers.
This is how I have 2 teams, okay? Just so everybody watching understands. I went to undergrad at Miami, and I went to grad school at Clemson, okay? Let's move on to BYU. They're 5-0. What do you think, overrated or underrated?
I'm going to sound like a hater. I'm going overrated. They've got a couple of good wins. I thought the SMU win was good. To me, it doesn't look as good now because they've sort of made their switch at quarterback and they figured things out. So SMU's playing better football. They caught them at a bad time. The Kansas State win, obviously, I think it was something like 38-9. That was a good win. They're a talented team. Young quarterback, though. Look, their quarterback position, he doesn't really do a great job of protecting the football. I don't know that you could trust really anybody in the Big 12 outside of maybe Iowa State at this point. I'm still personally on the Kansas State bandwagon, but look, 17th in the country, okay? So overrated, underrated. You telling me there's only 16 teams better than BYU? I don't know about that.
Well, we were talking last week in our group chat about the fact that the Big 12 could possibly be the one team in the Power 5 that wouldn't be left out of the playoff, but they would be at the bottom.
Right.
They'd be at number 12 because obviously if you're a Big 12 or if you're a conference champion, you have to be in the CFP. So we'll see exactly what happens with the Big 12.